And we are live. Welcome to the Startup Tank, the climate investor pitch show, where we bring on the world's top early stage climate companies and try to get some deals done alongside our climate sharks, our panelists, our dragons, folks who are focused on putting big money into big picture climate companies. All of this is brought to you guys by Forward VC and our climate techies community. If you haven't checked this out, you can find out more about us at forward.vc, the number 4 ward.vc. We invest in and help companies that move the world forward. We've got our climate techies community of 4,000 plus on Slack and WhatsApp. Lots of free resources like our climate VC database. We've got the Startup Tank sessions we're doing every 2 weeks, lots of other member-only events, and everything else you can find at forward.vc. If you want to get our climate VC database, it's forward.vc. And I probably should have introduced myself. I'm Matt. I'm the host here of the Startup Tank and Forward. And today's show, it's not about me. It's about the incredible companies that we've got to present. They'll each have 5 minutes to pitch to our panel of climate sharks. Today, I'm joined by a couple of pretty incredible investors. I'll bring them on board. First of all, Mr. Alex, definitely need to add Alex Languth with Ubermorgen coming in from Zurich. Alex, you want to share a little bit more about Ubermorgen and say hey to everybody?
Sure. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of Ubermorgen Ventures. We are an early stage climate tech VC based here in Zurich and in London. We invest in pre-seed seed. We have a generalist approach, so everything that reduces greenhouse gas emissions and has an interesting business model is within our focus. Nice to be here tonight.
And awesome to have you back on. Teruko, do you want to go with Caygan?
Yes, nice to meet you. I'm Teruko, SVP of VC investment at Caygan Capital. Caygan Capital is as a majority of major businesses managing a hedge fund with $500 million of AM. Alongside the hedge fund management, we are investing in a private company in sustainability climate tech area, as well as the healthcare sector. We focusing on early stage companies. And among the sustainability area, we invest broad sectors, and geographically, we invest Europe, US, and Japan.
And last but certainly not least, we've got Sandro Mickelman with Vireo Ventures.
Yeah, it's very nice to meet you, Matt. So I'm part of the Vireo Ventures team. We're an early stage fund based in Berlin. We focus on electrification. So we're really into the energy market, and that can be applications around housing, energy and housing, energy and mobility. That is certainly PV, that is heat pumps. So everything around the energy transition from an early stage, and then software focused, maybe hardware enabled, but mostly software focused. We start investing with 250K tickets. We do follow-ups up to 2 million in Series A.
Awesome. And I run Forward VC and our partner in Climate Accelerator. We invest in 1 to 2 companies a month alongside our syndicate members and help grow and scale the companies with intros to our 250 plus mentors, folks who are high up at places like Porsche, Honda, Lufthansa, HSBC, yada, yada. The goal being, if you're an early stage company, what you need more than anything, our customers, clients, and some real traction. If you want to find out more about us and what we do, forward.vc. And if you want to check out our climate techies community, which has a bunch of free networking events, free access to VCs, other investors, and a lot of other perks, you can check it out at forward.vc/membership. But today we've got some incredible companies here to present. So let's take these awesome investors out for a sec and hand things over to our companies. They'll each get 5 minutes to present, followed by about 10 minutes of Q&A. And then we will see at the end of the night. We'll have the viewers vote, as well as our climate VC panelists, to see who it's our climate startup of the night. And Alex posted something, so I guess volunteers are victims. Alex, you want to go first with Cascadia?
There we go. Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. My name's Alex Wick. I'm the founder and CEO of Cascadia Carbon. The easiest way I can describe what we do is we tokenize carbon negative assets. So we basically create digital twins of trees, algal bioreactors.
One quick sec, Alex, are you trying to share your screen? You don't have to.
I'm not, but I could.
Okay. You don't have to. If you want to share your screen, go for it. If not, it's all fine as well.
So right now I'm on my phone, so I can run on my computer. I thought this was going for a couple hours. I didn't really expect to be presenting this soon. I'm still drinking my coffee.
No, still drinking the coffee. No worries. And then Patricio, do you want to take over with Bluetek and go first?
Sure, thanks. I'm going to share the screen.
Awesome. And then let us know when you're ready, and then we'll kick off your 5 minutes. I'll give you a 1 minute shot clock to finish things up fast. Sound good?
Yes, great. So can you see my screen now?
Looking good. Take it away.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we are Bluetek Global. We're based in South America, and we are a startup focused on data to improve and monitor air quality. And the problem is very clear. Almost 90% of the population are highly exposed to pollutants daily, and this has a lot of impacts. More than 7 people die prematurely every year because of a lot of exposure to pollutants. And most of these pollutants come from big industries, and from these industries, almost 60% of people are highly exposed. And the worst thing is that there's not enough data. In Latam, there's only one official monitoring station per each 60 square kilometers. So you are taking decisions of big areas with data that is not representative. So as you can imagine, this is a huge problem. It's not only in Latam, but it's across the world. So it's a problem that gives space for more than one player. The market fit for us is very clear. We are working B2B with industries with high emissions like mining, construction, oil and gas. All of these industries are highly regulated in terms of occupational safety, also about emission controls. They all need to manage lawsuits with sacrifice zones, that these little villages that are across or very near to the industries. And they also need to report their ESG metrics, so we can help them. And also, we are working with smart cities because today, more than ever, cities need us to sensorize different parameters, and air quality is one of those. Our solution is a pollutant management platform powered by hyperlocal and mobile sensors, low-cost sensors, that can take all the data and show the data in a real-time platform, giving alerts, KPIs, metrics. And also we can automatize and take from this platform automatic reports that you can see here at the right. So you can make easy the work for our customers to take better decisions on time. At the same time, we have here in the middle, we have a georeferencing map where you can see what is happening in your area and take control of this. We also have here on the right, this little device that can help to manage pollutants in indoor environments that we use a lot with fleets and the mining trucks. Our business model is very simple. We have several ways to have income. We have a setup fee to deploy all the platform. Then we can sell or rent the sensors. And then for each sensor, you will need to pay a monthly fee to have all the data, all the reports. And also we have a monthly fee for the device mitigation devices. So this year we are going to finish with 500K in regular revenues. And then for the future, we are working to, of course, improve our number of customers and to increase our penetration, because we are talking about big companies that are across the world. In construction and mining, there are few players, but they have operations across the world. So we're now in our second round. This second round will be used mainly for expansion in Latam and US, and also, of course, for research and development. We have already one ticket from this second round. Our team, we are 3 co-founders with a lot of experience in tech, in telecommunications, also in industries. And of course, we have an incredible team of 9 people working every day to improve air quality. So we have an amazing board of advisors, and also we have the sponsor of big players such as Google and Microsoft for startups. We are also part of Climatech Chile, so we work every day with these companies to improve all our metrics. So today we are working in 3 countries. We are in Chile, Argentina, and Peru, and we have more than 50 big customers in each of these countries, sorry. So we keep growing day by day. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks so much for presenting. You even beat the 1 minute warning. That was surprising. While I bring in the other investors on board, quick question that I would have is just, how did you break into this? What's your story?
So yeah, my story. So I used to work in the corporate world in the car business, industry, and I was very worried because my main KPI was to put more cars in the streets, and more cars and more pollution we live in Chile, that is one of the most polluted cities, and Santiago is the #1 city more polluted in Latam. So we grew up with all these alerts that you cannot do sports, you cannot go to events. So for us, pollutants and air quality is a very big issue.
And panelists, if it's your first time, just jump in whenever you got questions.
I can start maybe. Yeah, thanks first of all for the presentation, really interesting. I was wondering, you focused primarily on mining companies. I was just wondering why you chose that specific vertical. You named a couple of reasons, but there's also lots of other verticals I could think about, like shipping, for example, or even just within cities. And I was wondering why you chose that. What potential further verticals will be, and how big that market is for the high potential verticals you want to work in.
Sure. So we chose mining and construction because they are very regulated. So this is like a must-have. They really need this solution. And why there's a main focus on mining? Because Chile is the first producer in copper worldwide. 23% of the copper production comes from the north of Chile. So you have very big players from across the world that are working here. So it's a very good lab to test our technology with huge players.
From what will be next in terms of after all these mines and construction companies?
Yes, so we think that oil and gas is an incredible sector to work. There is no many players here locally, so that's why we're going to also to Argentina, to Peru, and other countries, and also smart cities. We are now doing some projects here in Latam with smart cities, and it's very interesting.
Perhaps on the IP side, do you have intellectual property in the sensors, in the software? What is developed on your side? What is purchased?
Yes. So the main tool that we protect is our platform. Because sensors are a commodity. So we don't build the sensors yet. We just bring the sensors from Asia, and then of course all the firmware is proprietary, from us, and then we work with the industrial secret, because today you cannot patent anything. Everything, even if you do, you have only 50% chance if you go to a trial. So we are working with contracts and NDAs and industrial secret with our customers.
Sure.
So, is there any competitor from the last company?
Yes, so very good question. So there's a few competitors that we have in our radar with different focus. Because, for instance, in US you have a Purple that are more focused on sensors. They have a lot of sensors, but we declare ourselves as hardware agnostic, because today we are working with our sensors, but we also are taking data from open source sensors. So our business is more the platform rather than the sensor. Then you have AQR that's based in Europe, and they have an amazing platform. They have a lot of data, but they are monetizing from protections like masks and other stuff to protect your health. And then you have Early, Clarity, that are more focused on they are very good players. They're more focused on the smart city and not so on B2B industrial. So we have this different focus. So we are not better, but we are different. We are all good. We are different focus.
Why have you chosen smart city as a second pillar? I mean, that is, just to my understanding, it's a completely different business or target group when you talk about mining or oil and gas. You need to approach it differently. Why is that the way to go? Yes,
so we decided B2B first than smart cities, because the B2G, do business with governments not easy. It takes a lot of time. Once you are inside, is huge, because you can grow a lot, but it takes time to start. So we decided to go B2B to have revenues, to deploy our projects in that industries, and after that we can show that credentials to to government, and we can go farther, with them.
Yeah,
Did
but
you survive that sales cycle? It's a really long sales cycle.
So in B2B is 3 months. So after 3 months, we are doing business, and we think it's not, it's a lot of time, but if you consider that these are big industries, that one project can be a lot of money, and you have the opportunity to go and to penetrate in different areas, we think that it's worth it.
You mentioned that you have already 50 clients. What's your ARR and what's the engagement there? Is it first like a pilot stage and then you roll out to the entire mine, or how does it look?
Yeah, very good question. So of course we always start with a commercial pilot, but we always charge for the pilot, because when you don't charge for a pilot, they don't have any commitment with you. So we charge that pilot, and after that we start with little projects that in a year is like $30,000 in a year. So that's the first ticket for one contract in a year, and after that we go deep and we take another projects inside the same companies. So we also work, Alexander, with alliance. So sometimes it's very difficult to go and do business straight with a big construction company or with a big miner. So we work with Johnson Controls, for instance, or other companies that already have the contracts. So we are the providers from these to these big companies, and we can go hand by hand with these companies alliance in other markets too.
Maybe another question on the technology. What is it exactly? What type of pollution you can measure with your sensors?
Yes, very good question. So we did a modular sensor, so we can put and extract any kind of sensor, gases, CO2, TVOC, particulate matter, so we have more than 15 parameters, and we can change because it's like a plugin, So yeah.
Because that would be when you go to different industries like oil and gas, methane would be, for example, very interesting, and I can assume that it makes a lot of sense to have like a modular kind of system where you can upgrade capabilities if needed.
Yes, indeed. The good thing, the good thing of this platform solution that it doesn't, even if we have different industries, it's the same solution. We have just to do little adjustments when we deploy the platform, and that's it. So it's very good. Yeah.
Maybe one last one from my side. How do you want to expand beyond South America you're in right now?
Yeah,
right?
Sure. We already we are legally established in Delaware because we are always thinking about to go abroad, not only LATAM, of course. But for us, it was easy to start here locally, in the countries that we manage. But of course, our scope and our main goal is to go not only the United States but also Europe.
And what is challenging when going there? Is it the regulatory environment? Are there different customers? What is
I think it's a very good question, Sandro. So it's a matter of resources. Today we are doing this second round because we need some resources to go and embrace more markets. So that's just a thing of money at this point.
Speaking of money, how's the fundraising going?
So yes, so our first round was 800K with a local investor. So now we're in the second round. We established like parameters between 500K and 1.5 million. So it depends on the runway. The first one will give me 15 months and the other 30 months. So now we have the first ticket, 45K. And then we have an MOU signed with another investor, but we haven't accepted the offer because at this moment it's very, very important who is involved in the business. The second round is very important to have all the network, all the connections to really go to the next step. And we're also working with I think 4 more VCs that are now taking the decision the next, we hope, 30 to 45 days.
What's your ideal consortium then? Your ideal investor consortium for this next round?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Well, if you could choose, what type of investors would you add to the cap table with your next round?
Yes. So we have two ideas that could be very work a lot. One of that is, of course, to have somebody involved in the impact business. Climate tech, sustainability. For us, it's very important. Some investor that has that focus and really cares about this. And the other, of course, also industrials. So two of the funds that we are working now, they're like the CVC of big industries that are very regulated. So it has a lot of sense to be involved with this kind of investors also.
Any last questions, folks? I think Patricio answered it pretty well.
Maybe one last question. Just thinking about it, why do you think this is actually climate tech? I mean, it is about pollution, right? It's about worker safety. That is important. But why is it climate tech?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because the things that you cannot measure, you cannot work on. So there's a lot of things that are happening. But if you don't have the data to improve, environment, you will not do it. So maybe we are like a part that is needed in this chain to make things happen. So if you give data properly and you help them how to use data, these other players can take action. So that's why we decided to get involved in the climate.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, it's a question of if you count carbon accounting or carbon credits. Because if those count, then I don't see how this cannot count. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
But
the idea, just the last thing, but the idea is just to convert this platform in a hub, because when you have all the emissions of these big industries, you can help them, to have an equivalence between the emissions and the carbon credits. For instance, you could be like a carbon credit broker inside this platform, and also you can help them to report all the ESG metrics. Because today it takes a lot of time to do all the reports, all the information that you have to gather to present to the regulated institutions. So if you can help them with all this data, I think it's a great point of view. I mean, it's a great tool for them.
Awesome. Then thanks for pitching, Patricio. Thanks for sharing. Again, if folks want to apply to an upcoming session, just thestartuptank.com. And now I would say, Vit, do you want to share Tuuli and a little bit more about what you guys are doing? You want to go next?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Let me share my
screen. You are spotlighted and good to go.
Amazing. Can everyone see that okay?
Looking good. Your 5 minutes starts now. Take it away.
Perfect. Hey, everyone. My name is Vit. I'm building Tuuli. But before I get into that, I just want to start off with a couple of key headlines. So climate change emissions from buildings and construction hit a new high. Why reducing carbon emissions from buildings is the key to fight climate change. Our buildings are driving us closer to climate hell. Every single day, we get blasted with more and more of these headlines, and it all comes down to one thing: climate change. One of the biggest climate impact sectors influencing the climate crisis today is buildings. 40% of the global CO2 emissions comes from buildings, with its building materials accounting for half of these emissions. Local policies realize that this is the case and are setting mandatory targets. Voluntary carbon targets in 2022 will become mandatory in 2026. As a result, a whole bunch of developers are still struggling to meet these targets. And we know this because we spent a ton of time talking to our potential users. That's why we're building Tuuli, the first platform that allows you to track, manage, and report out these carbon emissions. But before I get into that, I spent the last 4 years working as a sustainability consultant, and this is exactly the issue I dealt with. We spent a whole bunch of time creating carbon reports for building developers, but the one thing that consultants couldn't do is analyze buildings as a whole. So let's take this building as an example. So you can input your building design targets, no matter what strategy, no matter what stage of design it's in, and you can optimize your building and then finally report it out. Going into the nitty-gritty of it, you can upload your building integrated models, so your Revit models, AutoCAD. You can upload your building design no matter what stage of design it's in. From there, we can figure out what the best bang for your buck is to meet your targets. So whether that's looking into mass timber buildings or concrete buildings. So right now, building developers spend on average $2.7 million for low carbon materials. But with Tuuli, we can save those users over $1 million in cost spent towards selecting low carbon materials. And ultimately, we're creating a platform to help you manage your different design iterations and your portfolio to help you report out these carbon emissions to your building investors and to your local policies. So going into the details a bit further, so on average, these developers are paying $40,000 a year to consultants to create these carbon reports for your building materials. And on average, these materials that they're selecting to meet these targets cost $2.7 million. But with Tuuli, like I mentioned, we can save users $40,000 per year in the cost spent for a life cycle analysis, which is that the reporting process for materials. And we can save them over $1.1 million per building because we can select more sustainable materials more efficiently, really capture those low-hanging fruits. As a result, we see a market at $22 billion globally per year, and this only includes new developments per year for office and multi-unit residential buildings. As a result, we're plan to charge our users $7,500 per building per year during the design stage, and $1,500 per building per year after the building has been designed and constructed to help you report out your carbon emissions. This market is huge. It's constantly growing at a rate of 9.5% per year. And by 2030, it'll become a $1,300 billion industry. No one has been doing the things that Tuuli is offering. Currently, all the tools in the market offer a no-cost analysis, so they don't really figure out what the best bang for your buck is, or it's incredibly manual. And consultants, like I mentioned, just cannot be doing this entire work, managing thousands and thousands of different materials.
1 minute warning.
Yeah. So we've spoken to hundreds of players in the key space. And the key thing that we want to share here is we have 5 pilots in the pipeline, and we're looking into funding from the SEC, which could equate to around $200,000. So over the next couple of months, we're looking to launch our MVP, secure some additional engineers, and launch our full product with 5+ firms and gain that $100,000 in revenue. Like I mentioned, have spent a ton of time sustainability and know the space very well, as I was a consultant before. My 2 co-founders, Colleen and Arpin, have spent a ton of time in sustainability as well, and will be leading the technical charge. The ask today is that we're looking to raise a pre-seed round for $500,000. With this pre-seed round, we're looking to launch our MVP and start to develop our full product features, gain 10 customers with $100,000 in revenue, and ultimately expand the team with 2 engineers and 18 months of runway so that we can really get ahead of the incoming policies.
And time is up. Let's bring back the other investors. So you guys have been making some pretty good progress up until this point. It's been totally self-funded so far?
Yeah, it's been self-funded for about 4 or 5 months. The rest of it, we've been part of the Next 36. It's one of Canada's top entrepreneurship programs here. So they provided us with some funding over the summer.
Awesome. Good work. Then Teruko, you want to kick things off and take it away?
Yeah, it might be a good question, but I have heard of some of the company who is trying to do the same kind of things, calculating as a carbon footprint of the building project. How is different your technology versus such a competitor? And what do you mean by the automatic full cost analysis?
Yeah, good question. Let me just flip towards that. So all the companies that are doing something similar to us right now, they're pretty early on. You can see Tangible, who is a seed company right now. They're pretty early on. And one thing that they don't do is offer a cost analysis. So what that means is for a developer trying to meet these local policies, investor goals, ESG targets, whatever the case is, they need to spend a whole bunch of money to get you towards your target. And the solution isn't as easy as let's go from a concrete building to a wooden building. There's a whole bunch of complications internally that happen with budgeting, structural things like that. So what these other companies do is they strictly just suggest different materials that you can use that meet your targets, but that doesn't mean that it will be adopted most times. Versus what we're trying to do is really figure out, hey, let's add a cost element to this. Let's add a carbon element to your materials, and using both of them, let's overlap them to figure out what the best bang for your buck is to meet your targets while still being a structurally sound product. To talk about the manual and automatic part, what I meant by that is a lot of these companies take your consultants in audit. A sustainability consultant will need to go into these programs, will need to take a whole bunch of drawings from architects, structural engineers, and really figure out what is the best strategy to meet your targets. And that's a huge process. It can take several months, thousands and thousands of dollars, because it's very manual. And the one caveat to all of this is right now, consultants can only look at, say, 50, 100 maybe different materials for your buildings, but there's tens of thousands of materials out there. So it becomes a problem that only an automatic system like Tuuli can solve.
Alex wants to know how you undercut Deloitte.
I'm not sure that Deloitte offers carbon accounting for buildings. So I'm not too sure. I'm just reading this question here. I'm not too sure, but I can definitely check into that.
I mean, there's a lot of players in the space either way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps one question on the user, just so that I really understand it right. So you have the project developer, right, who's in the phase of construction, responsible for the potential building, and then you have the asset owner who's at some point is owning the asset. Who do you target specifically? Because you said when you were showing the pricing, in the construction part you have different pricing from the owner part in the layer stage. Whom are you addressing exactly?
Yeah, great question. So it starts with, like you mentioned, it's two phases. One is the developer who is constructing the building. They're usually the ones who are the first stage owners before they either sell it off to an asset owner or the asset owner secures the developer to kind of create this building. So for the developer in the first stage of design, they would be, I would be selling Tuuli towards them because they will be the ones that need to meet these low carbon targets and are typically the ones paying for these other competitors like ones like LCA to your sustainability consultants, things like that. And the flip side is once the building is built and constructed, asset owners will need to report out their scope 3, scope 2 emissions. And since we've already collected a whole bunch of data upfront about their buildings, about how it's already contributing to the 2030, 2040 goals, we can naturally help them report it out towards investors, CDP reports, things like that.
And is it later stage, is it a challenge for you? Because I know that a lot of asset owners already have a tool for that, or they are just in the process of getting a tool for that, which doesn't have to be necessarily the tool the construction company and the project managers are working with. Is that a challenge to acquire those second-tier customers?
Yeah, so our biggest value add is in that first initial stage with our optimization tool, bringing your best bang for your buck. But we actually recently talked to one of a Canadian developer in Allied. I'm not sure if you're familiar. They're pretty big in the space with a whole bunch of buildings in the portfolio. So they did acknowledge that, hey, like this optimization piece is the most valuable to us. But since we've already collected a whole bunch of information upfront about our buildings and helped us kind of walk through that initial stage of reporting, it's only natural that you can store this data and kind of help us facilitate embodied carbon reductions throughout the 2030, 2050 goals. So it's not a huge issue, or it's not too difficult for us to collect this data. So naturally, we want to collect it and report it out if possible. And at our 1,500 for that later stage reporting, it becomes a no-brainer for these companies like Allied, who have a team of, I think, 10 people, and it takes about 3 months to do carbon reporting for both operational and embodied. But yeah.
Cool.
Where do architects fall into your customer groups? Don't you have to work with them as well?
Yeah, so our architects, what we found are they won't be paying the bills. They won't be the ones making the key design decisions about building. It's more so the workflow that we've been noticing is the developer will set a whole bunch of, in this case, let's call them owner project requirements about how the building should be developed, whether it should be a concrete building, whether it should be a mass timber building. And then from there, the developer will send those requirements towards your architects to really design using that space. So for what we're trying to offer in terms of like structural materials, in terms of these key carbon materials, it's more so requirements that the architects will need to work around, more so something that the architects will need to work with us to decide. So it's really the developer who will make those decisions.
And then means that you only focus on the primary materials of the building. So what is you basically choose concrete, wood over concrete in that sense. And there's really so many materials that you can choose from.
Yeah, so a typical building takes about 5 years to be from design to constructed. And at every stage of design, there's like different elements that are kind of decided. So in the first stage, it'll be your structural materials. The next stage, it'll be your exterior materials, and then you go into your interior and further and further. So just taking your exterior materials, for example, you can go from steel, concrete, and wood, 3 big categories. Say in the case that wood and steel are not the best for your building, you can go into concrete. And for concrete, there's tens of thousands of different mixes. In America alone, I can't remember the exact number of EPDs or the types of concretes out there right now, but it's something in the 5 digits. So there's a whole bunch of analysis that need to be done. And actually what I did at my past job was, hey, let's put in different types of mixes for concrete and let's see what gets you towards your goal. And that process was a guess and check. Let's try different concretes. So with Tuuli, we would want to add that cost element to figure out, hey, this is your best strategy.
There's a lot of people doing that on the concrete side of things. That brings a lot of other competitors into the mix. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, the concrete side is a big market because concrete actually accounts, or your structural materials account for 80% of your carbon emissions for buildings. But the problem that we noticed, or that we're trying to solve for, is no one's accounting for the 20% of your materials from your exterior or interior. And there's been research studies shown that you can reduce the embodied carbon or meet your carbon targets by 46%, so reduce your carbon emissions by 46% for a 0.5% cost premium. And any developer hearing that number is a no-brainer. But what is a limitation for them is they can't go through every single building element. They can't go through every single category of buildings because it's just not feasible. And most of those low-hanging fruits to really get you towards your goal cost effectively come in your interior elements or come in your exterior elements. These pieces that sustainability consultants just can't look for and are actually low-hanging fruits that you can meet your targets. that's why we're so confident saying that, hey, we can save a developer $1 million to meet these targets because we're targeting those low-hanging fruits. We're targeting the different mixes, we're targeting different concrete ratios, things like that. Really picking and choosing where the developers should spend their time.
Here we go. Would it make sense for you to work with those sustainability consultants instead of the developers right away? Because then you basically have a bigger spread, or you can bigger leverage on your customers.
Yeah, actually, we noticed that was the case this last week. We've been having active pilot conversations, and one of our biggest pilot conversations right now was with a sustainability consultant out in Philadelphia, where they want to just upload their buildings to our upload their building projects to our portfolio manager, just so they can do this analysis for all their consultants and really add another stream of work to their scope of work. So yeah, I totally agree.
You totally agree, and that's what you're focused on, or you totally agree and that's what you should be doing?
I totally agree, and that's one of our focuses right now, where we think that we can focus on the building sustainability consultants for the buildings. Yeah.
And what's the biggest challenge you have? What, if you fail, why will it be?
If we fail right now, one of the problems that we notice is buildings are constructed, they're over-structurized, where a whole bunch of materials are implemented in buildings where they don't need to be. So say you're designing a 10-story building in Toronto, the structural engineers right now are accounting for a 12-story unit. So they're adding a whole bunch of structural materials that don't need to be there right now. So for a developer, what that means is they're spending a whole bunch of money for these materials when they don't need to be. And the flip side of it is these investors
why are they doing that? Because they're not stupid. So what's caused this to happen?
It's the structural engineers. They are almost copying and pasting their previous structural designs from one building to another, and they're not creating case-specific buildings towards what you're trying to design right now. Every building is different, so every building should have its own structural requirements. But the easy way out for structural engineers is to take your analysis from a previous building and apply it to a new one. So it's a bit of taking the easy route. The developers wouldn't mind paying for that because that's what they're used to. That's a typical practice. And one thing that we think that we can offer is really figuring out, hey, how do you reduce the materials? How do you figure out a design for a structural building that is actually what you're designing for? So it's a problem of information right now. There's not a lot of information on what is the correct design for your building, and the only people that really know that is structural engineers. But the issue is structural engineers don't provide that level of consultancy.
Is there a way to bring that in the system to actually improve the building structures and not just the materials used? Is it possible?
Yeah, it is. One of our advisors right now have done a bunch of research on this topic, because the biggest way to actually meet your low carbon targets is by reducing materials. And it's a takeoff analysis. It's a takeoff problem, I should say, where a building is designed, and using archetype models, using a whole bunch of data, using a whole bunch of predictive systems, you can predict what this building typically should function as, so that when you have your structural design and you have this almost AI computed design, you can compare the two and figure out what your where you can start to cut down materials. And that can be taken back to the structural engineer, and it's just a cyclical process.
Awesome. Then I think that's everything from the investors. Any last questions, folks? This certainly seems like something, although it is very competitive as well. Thanks for pitching today, Vit.
Thank you. Vit.
Make sure we keep things moving forward. And next we've got Dulat with Yquantum, trying to go next gen green drones. Dulat, you ready?
Thank you. Hello everyone. Let me share screen.
You're good to go whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm sharing screen. Second.
Awesome. Take it away.
Okay. So, hello, my name is Bulat. I'm with my team working on advanced robotic drone system. Let me change slide. So, advanced robotics. So, the goal is to create advanced robotic multi-purpose drone. It's going to be evolution of transportation. So, drone will have abilities to vertical takeoff and landing with all. So it will have abilities to advanced speed and long-range renewable energy features. It's planned to be body with covered entirely with solar, and so we plan later on build autopilot AI system with computer vision. Okay, now the current stage is engine under development. So it was my hobby 2 years ago. While I work for Hewlett Packard, so I started like to do what I like to do, and so I worked before December 2022 so I lost job because of crisis, and I started like work full time on it. And this is all pictures is real. It was produced by me and my team. So now the latest one robotic engine is V6. So it's under test now. So we do advanced 3D printing and advancing 3D circuit board with programming. Arduino. Yeah. So this is picture just a sample. So the next stage is going to be to create the body of the drone. Yeah. So all parts of the drone is going to be 3D printed, and it's going to be fully electric with advanced features and AI computer vision to help pilots navigate. So this is our business model. So we are planning to manufacture it at least with to start with small manufacturing and create sales. So we're gonna get feedback and improve. So yeah. So we planned. This is our financial projection. So this is going to be profitable company.
How are their percentages?
Yes, every year we think we going to increase percentage of production and sales yeah, of drone. So this is a goal of use of funds, and so we divided part for modification, for research, for production, for sale.
1 minute warning.
Yeah. And yeah, this is team. We are two now. Yeah. We are two. So I'm stopping to share screen.
Awesome. Let me bring the other investors in. And to be honest, just from an investor perspective, you could probably work with practicing the pitch a little bit. Can you talk a little bit more about the actual design of the motor and where the kind of technology actually is?
Design of motors, it's every time improving. So once we do tests, we improve. So we are solving a lot of issues. Stability test, like we are increasing RPM, we are increasing our manufacturing processes, and we do research with also advanced materials. Yeah, it is important to work for current time.
I mean, any questions, folks?
Yeah, if I can ask, when you're saying next generation drone, does it mean your drone is fully energized by the solar panels that the drone has, and doesn't need other fuels like hydrogen? And if so, how long can it fly?
Okay, so it is going to be energized by mostly by own energy. So we are working on we are trying to balance energy. Yeah, and additionally we want, just in case, cover the drone with entirely with small solar like square cell, and it's going to be at least 5 times longer range. The drone will have longer range, at least 5 times, and the speed of the drone is going to be like completely different path, and I can't tell now, but we do work.
So do you mean speed is the main differentiator of your drone?
Yeah, it's at least 10 times faster. It's going to be.
So let's say with concrete terms, how many hours or how many miles per hour is duration or the speed? Because we don't know what is the base of the 5 times or 10 times.
So we are thinking it's going to be at least work 6 hours, at least 6 hours from 24, and the speed at least is going to be 5 times greater. Yeah.
Which means?
So that drones work with completely different like with completely. So we do research of anti-gravity like research, and it's different physics.
What have you
Yes.
actually been able to demonstrate?
For now, the engine, yeah, I have video. Okay, so okay. 1 second. This is what previous model. It is, so we are improving it. 1 second.
And what exactly is the technology behind this? I don't know if that was not brought up or what, or if I missed it somehow.
It's a magnetic field. Yes.
Why do you try to develop the entire drone? I've seen the pictures of the motor. Why do you not focus on one specific part?
Okay, so we want to create a brand, like because once the technology is going to be, so the engine, if we release it, is going to get spread. So we are going to keep it as brand, like a Tesla. But yeah. Second.
Yeah, but for Tesla, you also need the credibility of Tesla and billions behind you ahead of time to be able to do that.
I know we don't have now this ability, but to develop one working model, we can. We have ability. 1 second, sorry.
I mean, in general, great claims require great proof, and I haven't seen anything. If I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, okay, let me just everybody can see it. So this is a test prototype, and it's shaking now, and we are improving. We're making system better.
So can you elaborate? What are we actually seeing here? What is happening inside of this?
It's okay. So this is kind of another type of engine. It's fully magnetic, so it's a big research like inside, and it required a lot of explanation. For now, I can tell that it's fully magnetic, and it has different properties, and it's consuming maybe 20 times less energy than all that's currently exists on market. So it can work from 1 amp 4 volts, like from small battery. And yeah, I'm not gonna like we just do work, and so from my experience, we are not going to prove anybody anything. So we are just creating. It's work. It's hard work. We are working on it, and yeah. So this model is made by me and my teammate, and we do entirely custom.
Very good. Any last questions, folks? I think that's pretty much everything. Then thanks for pitching, and I would pass things over now to Alex, who's back with a functional laptop for Cascadia. Do you want to take things away, Alex?
Yeah, well,
Looking good. Take it away. Your audio is off, Alex.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
You should be good. Take it away. Let's take two.
Sorry about that. I'm having technical difficulties. Yeah, my name is Alex Wick. I'm a master of forester. I've been living in the Cascadia bioregion, which is the Pacific Northwest of the US and Canada for the last 10 years. I have a company called Cascadia Carbon. We've been building a patented blockchain-based digital twin platform for carbon negative assets. So when people ask me what I do, I say we tokenize carbon negative assets. And why do we do this? We do this because the voluntary carbon market has a real big problem, and that's trust. Tons of companies go out and plant millions of trees. 99% of those trees die in the first couple of years, and no one can verify that they're there. And that's because most of the companies do this top-down reporting where they're using satellite imagery and planting large numbers of trees. We take the reverse approach, where we are doing a bottom-up approach. So we enable individuals to actually tokenize their individual trees, and then monetize them with these fractional ton carbon offsets. I put in the link to our green paper earlier. We have a patent pending status, and we have an ERC20 token, which is actually carbon negative. And so one Codex token, Codex stands for Carbon Offset Decentralized Exchange, is 1-to-1 backed with 1 kilogram a year of carbon dioxide. We built an app, a website, carbonaut.app, also put that in the chat, where you can actually upload one of your own trees in your backyard, front yard, street tree, any tree. And you can see how it works. So basically we issue you a unique QR code for that tree. You upload a photo of the tree at least annually to ensure it's still living and growing, a precise location, which allows us to generate that unique identifier because fortunately trees don't move. And then the ongoing additional growth of the tree is actually where the offset comes from. We're fully Web3 integrated, so we have a partnership with Polygon. As I mentioned, we have an ERC20 token. We're supported by the government of Canada. We've signed the Crypto Climate Accord, and we're a marketplace for individuals to connect with corporations to buy, sell, and trade carbon offsets. We've been doing 100% organic growth to date. So no paid marketing, it's essentially word of mouth, which is in the environmentalist community, it's really the gold standard. So I had a co-founder in 2020. He had 200 acres of land on the North Umpqua. In 2020, a wildfire ripped through his whole area, burned his retreat center, his house to the ground, torched all of the trees, and at that point, that's when we I sort of took a look at the voluntary carbon market and said, okay, so we're planting all these millions of trees, and they're essentially tinderboxes. But urban trees are a very different type of growth for trees, I guess. As a forester, they have a much higher success rate. They have a faster growth rate because of the increased temperatures in urban areas, as well as the increased CO2 levels. And they're more likely to survive because they have people stewarding and taking care of them. So yeah, I guess a little bit about our recent traction and progress. We were recently featured in KGW. Last year we were featured in KGW, Portland Area News Network, about how you can monetize your street trees and trees in your front yard. We got about 1,500 individuals who are interested in participating in the data generation component of our platform. Again, we're doing a bottom-up offset generation scheme. We call it a scheme because that's what it's called in the voluntary carbon market. It's not a scam. But the bottom-up scheme requires a lot of data from individual trees to determine an accurate growth rate of each individual tree. Once you get enough of those trees, you can then scale that up. It's a very unique way of looking at the market, and it's
30-second warning.
It's can't say the word. The methodology is accurate. And so, I mean, the VCM is essentially the Wild West. You know, there's hundreds of thousands of tons on there that are never existed in real life or may no longer exist. You know, they're not accurately quantified. There's conflicts of interest inherent in the verification process. And so by using this individual tree, this single tree selection, which is based on a US Forest Service iTree protocol, it improves the offset precision and quality almost immediately, and actually improves the whole marketplace as a whole.
And time is up. What are you guys looking for?
We're looking for exposure. We're actually at the COP28. We're going to be bringing some redwoods over there. And yeah, so just looking for, I mean, feedback is always great. I just love hearing, you know, again, I'm not an MBA, I'm a forester. So I worked for the Forest Service, held a secret clearance, worked with the biometrics division over there. So just, you know, if you guys are investors, you know how to monetize things and, you know, how to really drill down and look for the money-making parts of a business. And, you know, I think with our patent, we have something here. We're just looking for your expertise.
Well, then take things away, guys. Any questions?
I can maybe start. Thank you, Alex. Can you maybe shed some light on exactly how you do the MRV, how you collect the data, and how it is then uploaded to the blockchain?
Sorry. Yeah. So the data is all through carbonaut.app. It's crowdsourced reporting. And our patent is around using this as statistical analysis. So getting multiple individuals to report on a single tree. And that allows you to converge around the true value of the tree.
Yeah. Why do you think, I mean, I appreciate your ambition of doing every individual tree. Why do you think you need several data points per tree? Can you just, do you think it's necessary?
I mean, for the MRV, yes. The data points, one of the issues with offsets is they have to be ongoing and additional, which is actually a pretty high bar. And so corporations like Frontier Fund, for example, they need 1,000-year permanence, which basically excludes any sort of nature-based solutions. And I think that a lot of the corporates that are getting into this field have these really rigorous, like actually prohibitive requirements. You know, because at the end of the day, an offset is like a tree grows, it pulls carbon from the atmosphere, and the mass of the carbon removed from the atmosphere is the amount of offset. And that's why we chose to go with the bottom-up approach for individual tree selection.
We invested in a company called Open Forest Protocol. Have you heard of them? Yeah. How do you differentiate yourself primarily? I guess every single tree thing for sure.
Yeah, so Open Forest Protocol, I know them well. They're a great idea. They focus mostly on smaller landowners. I think NCX is also a sort of competitor to OFP. Our value add, I'll say, is really engaging individuals. So previously, like whether you're First Nations, BIPOC, you know, socioeconomically disadvantaged neighborhoods, it allows anyone to become part of this for reporting and this verification methodology. And at the end of the day, you know, we need everyone.
Maybe then my last question from my end is, how do you acquire all these individuals to be part of the MRV, and how do you incentivize them?
Yeah, so that's another thing that differentiates us. So we're building what we call like Pokemon Go for climate change. With the idea is we're going to be partnering with cities, tokenizing their street trees, and then having Gen Z kids going around, you know, taking photos of trees, doing this sort of citizen science climate reporting. And yeah, I don't know if you guys know any Gen Z people. I don't think any of you are Gen Z, but you know that they're rabid about climate change, and it's going to affect them disproportionately. So the short answer is through gamification of the tokens.
Yeah.
Hey, Alex, how can, if you say you focus on individuals, or that is maybe your first beachhead, how do you incentivize them not only to take the pictures, but can they earn money with planting a tree in their garden? Probably they can, right? So how can they actually get to the money? I think there's some kind of exchange on the marketplace. How does it work?
Yeah, so our ERC20 token and the carbon offset DEX, the decentralized exchange, the Codex token has a value of 10 cents per token, which works out nicely to $220 per ton, which is 2019 Stanford estimated true social cost of carbon. And that $220 per ton is significantly more than the amount that carbon credits currently sell in the marketplace. They're going for like $2 to $20. Though I will say, you know, the VCM is sort of all over the place. You can buy carbon offsets for $880 a ton from, you know, the Orca plant with Climeworks. So, you know, it definitely depends on the data behind the offset, because at the end of the day, the offset's only as good as the data that it's based on. But so that ERC20 token, which is then dispersed for, you know, every time a individual uploads a photo for the growth, the ongoing additional growth of their tree, that corresponds to a monetary amount.
And what can you do with the token then? I mean, at least in where I'm based in Germany, it's pretty complicated to trade CO2 certificates or anything alike. So how do you get to the money then in Canada, for example, if you have the token?
So if you have a token, currently it's just a token, it's just bragging rights. You can say, hey, I have 1,000 Codex tokens, you know, my redwood in my backyard's growing. You know, we're working on adding a leaderboard, things like that. Because it's an ERC20 token, though, it is exchangeable on exchanges. You know, we're working on building out smart contracts around that. So there's definitely potential in the future for it to be monetized, for you to actually offload these tokens, trade them to corporations, for example, who need to purchase offsets. Currently, you know, currently it's, as I mentioned, it's just sort of a vanity metric, essentially. Though I will say virtue signaling in the environmental community is a really big deal. So having the tokens, even if they're not directly exchangeable for, you know, fiat money, is incentive for a lot of younger people and a lot of environmentalists.
What about incentives for other environmental type things, such as access to climate conferences or different climate apps or different yada yada, or digital access to content, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great point, great thought. We've definitely considered it, and one thing I want to be clear is that there's a big difference between these sort of avoided emissions offsets, and one of the websites I threw in the chat originally, the offset website, is not actually a it wasn't built by us, but it's essentially sort of a satirical way of saying, like, hey, it's an industrial sabotage offset methodology. It's not real, but the methodology is valid according to the avoided emissions methodology. We focus only on the carbon negative, like true carbon negative carbon offset methodology. And that's basically just storage of carbon, either, you know, geological storage long-term or nature-based, you know, more short-term storage. There's definitely opportunity, though, to use Codex tokens, I think, to, for example, buy a ticket to a climate conference or something like that.
What exactly is your IP around? You were discussing a little bit in terms of having individuals actually take photos of trees.
Yeah, so we have a patent pending. It's for the crowdsourced verification methodology. So it's using, essentially, as I mentioned, statistical analysis and multiple potentially fallible individuals to arrive at a true consensus on, you know, does that tree exist? How big is it? How fast is it growing?
Why don't you license that as a technology to the other carbon accounting and tracking and carbon credit platforms, because they all have no idea what they're doing, and building out your own actual token and technology and then trying to build out the entire platform for it is a much bigger ask than building the verification platform so everyone can scan a QR code and then have a receipt delivered to yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the only issue with that, that's a great idea, and I think that, you know, if you know anyone at NCX or OFP, that would be, please introduce me, because I'd be happy to pitch our value proposition to them. The main issue with that is, like, NCX, for example, has you know, loblolly pine forests in the southeast US, and that's not near a town. It's, you'd have to drive to get out there. It's probably private property. There's hundreds of thousands of trees. So it doesn't really, it's difficult to scale up that individual tree methodology. And you can do it by using subsampling. And I've done actually a bunch of that as an inventory forester with the U.S. Forest Service. So it's possible to do, but it's difficult.
Can I understand? You like I say, registering your project with gold standard, and they verify.
Sorry, you said we're registering our project with gold standard.
Yeah, I wondered if your project is meets the standard of gold standard to give a branded carbon credit.
Yes, that's a great question. We're not currently registered with them primarily because I as far as I know, at least, Vireo, Gold Standard, Climate Actioners are all sort of the big verification bodies. Don't touch tokenized offsets. So anything with blockchain that they really won't certify or I think probably because they view it as a threat to their business model, which sort of is a middleman type model, and blockchain really excludes,
Yeah, I understand, because I was wondering, because there should be some standard to be verified by such a verification bodies, because the age of the trees and how long the tree will be preserved, it matters a lot. So it is probably there's some hurdles. The individual trees will be meet the standard of such a verification body.
Yeah, and so as I mentioned, we used it's a U.S. Forest Service open source tool. It's called iTree. It's available on their website. So it's it's essentially an Excel calculator. But we add some other components to it. So it includes geolocation, distance and azimuth to the closest building, species of tree. There's several other factors they have to input, and then it outputs a carbon storage coefficient.
How are you currently funded? I mean, that's a lot of tech you just mentioned. Are you building that in-house? And if so, how are you funded?
Sorry, you said that's a lot of tech. Are we building in-house? And if so, what?
And if you build it in-house, I guess you need some money for that. So how are you funded at the moment?
Yeah, so it's myself and my co-founder. We're building it ourselves. What I just mentioned, the tech with the iTree, U.S. Forest Service iTree protocol is that we're not building that. That's the Forest Service has built that in the past. So we're leveraging that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who's the business guy or business gal?
So that's who we're looking for right now. My co-founder dropped. After the fire, he essentially went from having 200 acres, a house, a home, a family, to having, a car and the clothes on his back. So he had to drop the company. We've been sort of limping along since then. We're looking for an investor that can also come in and really act as the business acumen for the company.
Tough sell. You're probably looking more for a venture studio that wants to take you on board than somebody like an Antler, maybe.
I mean, we'd be open to a venture studio. We have a one seed investor. He's a VP of engineering at a crypto hedge fund in New York City. He put in some money, but isn't really able to, delegate the time we need.
Awesome. Any last questions then, folks?
Thank you very much for letting me present. And
yeah, thanks so much for presenting then, Alex. Great job. Keep up the good work. And now I guess it's the time where we move into the last segment of the show, and that's the startup of the night. Do we have any favorites? Which ones we find most interesting, or who you'd want to set up a call with? You want to go first, Alex, since Zoom chose you to be at the top?
I can go first. Yeah, sorry for I had to find the mute button. I would choose Bluetek actually. I find it very interesting, the approach and the go-to-market, especially the potential of the company, the extent to other verticals, is in my opinion quite large. So for me, Bluetek is the startup of the night.
And Teruko?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Who's your favorite one or two companies of the night and why?
Well, it's not actually what I like or dislike, but yeah, I couldn't understand well with about the technology of Yquantum. So yeah, I want to know more about the technology.
Okay, and Sandro?
I would probably choose Tuuli, the real estate project or company. But I also quite like Alex, yours with the trees. I think it's a great idea, and if you find a way to leverage that technology, maybe as Matt also mentioned, in a different way, and not try to build up the entire product yourself. I think it's a cool thing to do.
Especially because you're more the forest guy and trying to have to be the tech guy, it could be another way to go. And there's plenty of platforms that are, let's just say, struggling with the authentication of carbon credits and proving they're not completely bullshit. So maybe having a better way of doing that with a crowdsourced model could be a good way of going. I liked Bluetek. I liked Tuuli. I thought they were both good. I wouldn't say there's really a clear winner of the night. I would probably go between both of those and then say that Cascadia had some pretty interesting potential, but not necessarily kind of a VC case at this point. Any thoughts, any comments, anything you guys want to add to that?
Nothing from my side, but thank you so much for the feedback and the questions. Definitely something to take back for me and my team.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everybody for coming on and pitching. You all did a great job just getting in front of the audience and getting in front of the camera. I know it's hard, not as hard as starting a company, but well, you signed up for it. And if you guys have any questions or want to reach any of our investors, Alex, where's the best place for people to find you?
So find me on LinkedIn, Alex Languth. Always responding to messages there usually.
Always responding usually. That's always good. Teruko, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Teruko, Kyuden.
And Sandro.
LinkedIn as well. You can reach out. We have a chat for sure.
Awesome. And folks, you know where to find us, forward.vc, the number 4 ward.vc. We invest in and help companies that move the world forward. If you haven't checked out our Climate Techies membership, we help companies with events, networking, content, connections, partnerships, etc. We've got our Climate VC database, our Climate Solutions database, our Slacks, our WhatsApps, our pretty much everything else, depending on pick your own journey, pick your own climate adventure journey, etc., etc. Forward.vc for more details, thestartuptank.com to apply for an upcoming session. And thanks everybody for tuning in. If you haven't, hit the subscribe bell, and I will wish you all a good night. Cheers.